Yay, wrench on. I think this is number 12. I'm starting to lose track, and that doesn't bother me at all. Anyway, this is Andrew Doherty. Today we're going to be working on but replacing a connector. We're working on an X right here today, and probably like a lot of guys, when I started out, you get 4 miles of lead on your receiver, on your servo, your speed control, transponder, fan, all these things plug in the receiver, and it just gets to be unkept. It's kind of messy. So we're going to work on reconnectoring. That's my word of the day. Reconnectoring the ends of this. We're just going to do the servo, but it applies to everything. Even a simple 2-lead connector like this, you can do with a 3-lead connector. The stuff that I use, this is a shameless plug. They don't know I'm doing this, and I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but anytime I find good products, I like to brag on them. I put this little piece of paper out, HansonHobbies.com. I forget. I keep it in there so I don't have to remember. Anyway, they're where I buy these, I don't even know what they're called, connectors. This piece of paper is the product number for the housing, this plastic housing, and they make several different kinds. You can go to their website, and they've got videos and how-tos better than mine. That's where I bought the crimper. That's where I bought the connectors and the housing, and I've got a whole box of, let's check this out. I've got a whole box, like a fix-it kit for electronics, and, you know, check it out. You'll like it. I think it's high-quality stuff. It's where I get everything from. Anyway, the idea is we're going to go from whatever that is, 6 inches, 4 inches, down to just enough to get it into the receiver. So step 1 is I make a fold and just mock it up to see where I'm going to need to cut this. Give yourself a little bit extra room. You don't want to pull anything tight, but that'll get it to the receiver in that position without any stress. So we're just going to cut it. I just use a pair of diagonal cutters, and I try to cut it flush and straight. Always measure twice, cut once, making sure there's not something I'm missing here. You don't want to do it plugged in, of course. You don't want to short something out because you're going to be connecting the positive and negative. But yeah, so that guy's trash now. The next step is I'll use an X-Acto, or this hobby knife I have. And boy, I've never measured this. I guess I should measure it for the video. I go by the eyeball method on this. But let's be exact. I'm going to remove about that much insulation. So I don't know if you can see that. Can you get over my finger there, Hayes? I'm going to remove about that much insulation, and you can feel when you've cut through. You don't want to cut through the metal, the conductors there, but let's see how much that is. How much do you think that is, Hayes? 6 millimeters, 9 miles.
4 millimeters.
All right, that's not a bad guess. You're probably pretty close. We're not even going to be terribly exact here. Helps to turn on the calipers. Yeah, 3 millimeters is about right. 4 wouldn't bother me if we did 4. Good call. So I kind of just cut it on either side, and then I'll kind of bend it just to weaken the insulation, and then I use my thumbnail to kind of dig in there and pull it off, and you're left with these little pieces. And then I'll take the hobby knife and try to separate the wires a little bit. We're going to twist those in just a moment. And then I'll come back another, 6 millimeters or so, and separate the insulation on those 3 leads. Now, on a Sanwa receiver, you probably won't be able to see that, but most of you know they are polarized. The receiver case is designed so that a housing like this, I'm not sure it picks up on the video, but there's a chamfer. There's an angle here, and there's an angle here. as opposed to the other side where it's just a square profile. So there's a chamfer on either side, and you can reef it in there and jam it in there, but it's much better if you can get it organized so that you have your negative wire. Every receiver I've seen in the last 5 or 6 years, the negative lead is bussed to the outside of the receiver, so I'm going to want these receiver wires to look like this when they go into the receiver, which means the chamfer on this receiver plug needs to go in this way. So I'm kind of thinking in my mind, okay, now I know which direction I want to crimp this end on. It just helps me keep everything organized. You can fix it later and twist it, but it's better to think ahead. So with these wires separated, I'll kind of give them a tweak here to get them away from each other. You don't want to peel the insulation apart from each other too far, but enough to work with, and I'm just twisting these by hand so they don't fray on me. I'm not trying to hurry, but I can tell this is taking longer than I wanted. I think over at Hanson, their video's like 1 minute long on how to do this, so maybe they're doing something right. Go check out their video. Maybe I'll try to link it in the comments down below. Now this next part, my dentist probably doesn't like. If you notice, there's a V-groove there. It kind of looks like this, and it's too wide to really hold on to the wire. Now eventually you're going to crimp it, and it's going to curl in on itself. It kind of does this, but to get everything straight and organized in the crimping tool, I like to have it pinched just ever so slightly to hold on. So what I'll do, and it varies depending on the gauge of the wire, but I bite it with my teeth. So I've got sometimes I bite it at the top to close the top. Sometimes you have to pinch the bottom to get the bottom to, especially on smaller gauge wires. So let's see, I wanted this to go that way, which means this needs to go in here like that, which means, okay. So I'm going to stop here in a second and let you zoom in to see what I've done. The insulation, let's see, I need a little punch. A little bit more just to keep it tight. You can always open it back up. Alright, can you get in there, please? So you can tell there's two parts that are going to crimp. This is the part that's intended to crimp the metal, and this is the part that's meant to hold the housing, but it actually pokes through and makes contact as well. So that length, that 4mm length we talked about earlier, is just so you don't have the wires extending too deep into the connector itself. And then you want the insulation pushed right up to that point so you get a nice solid connection. So once I've got it on there, I kind of press it with my thumbnail and get it wedged in there, because you're going to move it around and you don't want it to fall off. With it on the car, it's a little more difficult, but that's obviously easier with the servo or whatever it is out of the car. This particular model has two different sizes, and the gauge of wire that's intended for use is stamped on there. I always use the smaller one. I want it nice and tight, and it'll take some playing with. You don't want to push it too far into the mouth, and you don't want to pull it too far out. Let's see if I can. I'm going to try to stop before I've crimped it so you can see how far in with these particular connectors and this wire gauge that I'm going to go. How's it looking? Yeah, you're doing good, bud. So, here's what we can do. The first piece, the first edge of the metal connector is going to be flush with the face or the side of the crimping tool. So it's probably dark in there and you can't see, but I'm going to lose it. Ooh. Oh, yeah, there we go. Thanks. So right there. I don't know if you can see that, but you don't want to pull it out here. You don't want to push it in too far. Right there even. And then you just click. And I even like to come back here and get leverage and go past and tight as I can. Now these are nice because as soon as you've clicked it hard enough, they open right back up. If you click them like that, they stay closed. You can release by pushing that button. So here's our finished product for one lead. We're going to do the same thing on these other three, and it's just the same thing. Maybe I'll just do this faster and shut up and it'll go faster. Wouldn't be the first time I was asked. Popped my knuckle on that one. Must mean I got it right. Sorry, blocking it with my hand, aren't I? Sometimes when you're done, they stick in there. You don't want to just manhandle it out. Usually just pushing it from the back side. I don't know why it sticks in there. We're kind of reforming that metal. So you end up with these three guys. And the last step here, I'm sure everybody knows this, but maybe not. These little tabs are going to fold in behind the metal here to keep these in place. So they're definitely one way that they go in, and sometimes you have to kind of, you see that? I like to kind of put them in and then bend it back and forth just a little bit to get them straight so that they all slide in nice and smoothly. And then for the last little bit, I take the dull side of the X-Acto and you can slide it in. At first, you might have to push on the back side of it. Press it in enough. But then once you have them seated at least to where the metal is hidden in the back of the connector, like that, now you can use the dull side again and go underneath that tab and press it the rest of the way in. I'm telling you, these connectors, the way I've made them here, have been the strongest things I've ever seen. I did a strength test one time. I think they even say this on the Hansen video. Put it in a clamp, yanked on the wire, and the wire came apart before the crimp did. I was amazed. So full confidence and a good connection there. That's one of the worst things to troubleshoot is a wire that's loose in a servo or a speed control. Make you think you've got binding issues, all kinds of crazy stuff. So we're ready to plug this thing back in. It sure looks a heck of a lot better. Better than shrink wrap all over. Negative to the outside. Tight spot in there. There we go. And good as new. Better than new. Nice short wire. We're going to do the same with this one too. And you know, you could probably save 3, 4, 5 grams, I guess, on wire, depending on how much you cut off. Anyway, Hobbywing, thank you so much. Protoform, Avid, Hootie, RC America, X-Ray, R1. I appreciate you guys taking care of me. And if you guys out in Hobbyland need anything, feel free to let me know in the comments, message me, subscribe. I'm always looking for new ideas for a wrench on, and I don't make these for any reason other than just to help. I know I've helped a lot, and so I like to see other people get some advantage, maybe make you faster out on the track. See you around, guys. Thanks a lot.